Senator Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think Senator McCaskill made a point that I thought was very intriguing. When people come forward and talk about being assaulted or bad working environment are completely two different things. Is there a system in place to capture those two different things? Of all the numbers we're talking about, can you tell us from your services point of view of the numbers, the thousands, whatever allegations there are being made out there, how many of them fall into the category of inappropriate conduct versus a crime? Can you tell me that in the Coast Guard?
No, sir, I don't have any stats or figures that I can give you, and we can certainly do that for the record. But just intuitively and anecdotally, whenever we have somebody who is removed for command climate issues, inevitably it goes much deeper, and we find other.
I would guess I would just say command climate doesn't do justice to what we're talking about. Command climate is a hostile workplace to me. A crime is a crime. So to me, how do we capture the difference between the sexual perpetrator who somehow got through the gates of screening in the military, who's been able to survive and sometimes flourish in the military from performing their duties, but yet have this disposition that will destroy the military if not addressed? How do we separate those two? Does anybody have any ideas to make sure we understand the difference?
Well, sir, I agree with Senator McCaskill completely that there are two separate things we measure.
Yeah, but are they be reporting in a way? What about the Army?
Yeah, right now, they're required to be reported together.
Well, I think
we have to separate them.
Well,
and we can
separate.
That's
a really good place to start.
And we understand that.
Because I don't want everybody in the country to think that every allegation is of rape. Now, every allegation of, I was inappropriately talked to is very important, needs to be dealt with, that I was not treated right. But I think there's a big difference between the two systems that she's describing, and I don't believe there's any tolerance for anyone to allow someone who's a sexual predator to get anything other than just as hard a hit as we can give them. So I would like to follow up on her question, and y'all report back to us how you would create two tracking systems. Now, about lay people making prosecutorial decisions, that is a bit odd to the average person. I mean, in the civilian community, decisions to prosecute individuals are made by trained lawyers, sometimes elected, sometimes appointed. How would you justify this in the military, to have such a different system?
I would just say that I think what we do in the military is very unique. We're asked to do things that are very different than any other profession. And that's why the UCMJ was originally created, for us to have this unique relationship because of the good order and discipline that we often talk about, and the unit cohesion that is necessary to do the things that we are asked to do.
Would you agree that the military commander has authority that is hard to find a counter to in the civilian community?
That is correct.
Very few of us have the authority to order somebody into battle.
That's correct.
Very few of us have the responsibility of commanding people where they don't really get to discuss among themselves if this is a good idea. From a Navy point of view, I remember writing a law school paper about the absolute authority of a naval commander at sea. And there was a case where a guy had been up for like 20 hours. He went to sleep for 2 hours, and the ship ran aground, and they court-martialed the commander. Why would you do that?
Well, we entrust in the commanding officer of the ship all of the people aboard and the ship itself, the part of the nation, and that authority and that delegated authority to the commanding officer is absolute, and they are absolutely responsible for anything that goes on.
And all I would tell my colleagues, the military is truly a different world. General Gross, who picks the jury?
Senator, that's the convening authority.
Is there any such thing as a jury as one peers in the military?
It's It's different. I mean, everybody on the panel,
You're not going to get a jury of your peers.
that's correct. They outrank the individual who's on trial. In the case of an officer, it's an all-officer panel, but every officer outranks the individual. In the case of an enlisted, they can elect to have an enlisted panel, and part of the panel will be enlisted.
But they will be all senior enlisted people.
That's correct.
The point is that court-martial panels are not jury of one's peers. They're juries made up of people who have expertise and knowledge and experience for the unit, who are assigned to do justice in individual cases, but have that command perspective, because the whole point of military justice is to render justice in individual cases, but to make sure the system is moving the unit forward as a whole. And I understand this is a bit difficult to absorb for a lot of folks who are not in the military, but I would say that from my point of view, that commanders do listen very closely to their JAGs, and it seems like the only cases that go forward are the bad cases. I don't know why you'd want to send a case to court-martial where your JAG said we didn't think it was a good case. Can you tell us why you would do that, General Amis?
I'd be happy to, Senator, because there are times when I've sent a case forward when my JAG has said, sir, we don't have enough compelling evidence. It's a he said, she said, which quite honestly is it makes up an awful lot of our sexual assault cases. There's alcohol involved. It's complicated. And I've, in those cases, often have forwarded it to a court-martial, forwarded to an Article 32, then a court-martial, because I'm going to let the jury, the judge, sort it out. But I want to send a signal to the command that it's not tolerated in here, because it may be he said, she said to me, but it may come clear in a matter of a court.
Gotcha. And one last question. I'm over. Article 60 power, the ability to set aside a finding or a specification or reduce a sentence. You all agree that that should be taken away from commanders in most cases. To me, that's internally inconsistent with your message to us in terms of the power of the commander. How do you reconcile that?
Senator, if I could answer that, I think that when the code was promulgated in 1950, it was before substantial reforms that occurred in 1968, where we brought in trained judges, qualified lawyers to perform those roles. And so I think that the conditions that warranted that authority back in 1950, coming out of our experience in World War II, no longer pertain.
Thank you.